Yeah. Doe one. Rocky Mountain Sports Report, yeah, live and direct. Keep them shook, defend like Champ Bailey and Adam Foote, no joking. I'll block it out like Jokic, and now you see him blurry. Lost in the rain of threes from Jamal Murray. Oh, step up to the plate. Colorado landscape outstanding, reporting all the facts in. We out the park like black men, or better yet, Chuck Nasty.
Hey, good morning, everybody. It's David with Rocky Mountain Sports Report, and I am joined by Keith, Matt, for your Denver Bronco Pre-Game show. Today, the Denver Broncos travel back east for the second week in a row, and we take on the Jacksonville Jaguars. But first off, before we get started, we're going to give a shout-out to our sponsors. We got Stokely Fire, the barbecue superstore up in Loveland, Colorado. Any barbecue needs you got, go up there, see Frank. He will take care of you. We got Avacor Mobile Power Wash LLC. They'll hook you up with your power washing needs, commercial power washing, fleets of trucks, big dumpsters, things like that. Anything you need, parking lots, get a hold of Avacor. They will hook you up. And then we got Chavez Customs LLC. Hit them up if you need any, if you need any shirts, hats, anything like that made. And then Willow Seasonings and Blends. We're a seasoning and blend company based out of Colorado. And just check out our blends at willowseasonings.com. You may like them. All right. Good morning, gentlemen. How you guys doing?
Pretty good. How are you, Dave?
I am doing great, doing fantastic, ready for some Bronco football. I got 84 wings on the smoker right now. We're also going to have some pulled pork street tacos going on. So we're going to have some festivities over here. I don't know if we'll be able to match the spread Matt always has out. Burgers, brats, pizza.
We're going to take it easy this week.
Oh, okay.
I'm actually going to be making some like Indian cuisine for dinner today.
Oh, okay. What do you got going on, Keith? Or are you working again?
Well, we'll be working, but, there's always Sunday night football. If weather holds out here, might be a few steaks on the grill this evening. So,
nice.
Yeah. Looking forward to it. We got some nice, completely grass-fed beef that was gifted to us. So we're going to put some steaks on here shortly.
Oh, that sounds great.
Got
tell you what, Keith.
Morning, so a couple early rises.
Try out the Willow Seasonings high elevation salt, pepper, and garlic thing on your steak. You'll love it. I think Matt's tried it out. So.
Oh, yeah, it's delicious. I mean, I have yet to find a Willow seasoning that I do not like. So I'm pretty biased. So I'm going to tell you it's great.
I've got a few pounds of meat in the freezer, so I'm gonna have to get hooked up with some Willow Springs, and we'll go from there.
All right, sounds great. All right, Matt, take it away.
All right, so I mean, the first thing that we're gonna do. Well, before I dive too far into anything, I don't know. Did either one of you catch the CBS report this morning about the Broncos ownership?
I did not.
So supposedly Peyton Manning has significant interest in ownership if it becomes available. Let me say this. Take it with a grain of salt. It's CBS.
It's CBS
goes out wild.
These are the same guys that said Nick. These are the same guys that said Nick Chubb plays for the Broncos.
Exactly. So I'm saying take it with a grain of salt. But I am saying it does lead to something that could be potentially interesting as we move along. I mean, with the ownership up in the air, we don't know what's going to be happening. But with each day that passes, it looks more likely that it's going to be sold. So. Hey, that's last week. It was Jay-Z and Jeff Bezos. This week it's Peyton Manning. Who's next week? Madonna.
Yeah, and really quick before we go too far, that was Glenn who said good morning to us, Louisiana Glenn. Huge Saints fan, Who Dat Nation. So Saints taking on the Carolina Panthers today. So we'll be in your corner there, Louisiana Glenn. Good morning to you as well.
All right. So let's dive into the injury report real quick.
Okay.
So it looks like we have a couple guys that are going to be listed as doubtful, and Graham Glasgow. Of course, he's had the heart issue. I know they're doing a lot of testing, a lot of things like that. It could be that there was rumors that it could just be him just taking a week off just to make sure that everything's okay. Then Jonas Griffith, special teams linebacker. Hardly sees the field on defensive reps. He's also listed as questionable with a back injury. And then, of course, Bradley Chubb is listed as questionable still. Although there is reports from Adam Schefter this morning saying that he's expected to see the field. We don't know what capacity that's going to look like, and they haven't told us otherwise. So I think we should be looking forward to seeing Bradley Chubb on the field this month.
Yeah, I think he'll be on limited snap counts today, just to sort of get him back in there and see if that ankle's good. So, I mean, hopefully it is. We need to get Chubb back on field, but Malik Reed filled in great for him last week. So I don't think there's a huge drop off if Chubb's not in there.
Absolutely. And then Jonathan Cooper was doing a very good job as well. Him and Malik Reed were alternating.
Right.
So definitely looked good. Looked like we could get through another game if we absolutely had to. Of course, with it Bradley Chubb, we've seen in the past injuries have hindered him. So if we can leave him on the bench for another, if we have to leave him on a snap count, let's leave him on a snap count. Let's get him fully healthy before rushing him back. And, so we don't see another unfortunate injury. I think last week we said he hurt his left ankle. This season it's his right ankle. So let's just not rush him. If he sees 10 plays, I think I'll be happy with that today. What do you think, Keith?
Yeah, agreed. I don't want to see him jump right back in. I think we're in that similar predicament. Everything that's come out, he's been kind of slow to come back. And, a few snaps today, if he's feeling good, if it's looking good, maybe continue to play him. But there's no need to rush him back. Not this early in the season, not this game.
Okay. So I'm going to hop over to the Jags final injury report. It looks like they're going to be down one of their starting corners in Trey Herndon. He's out with a knee injury. They are getting one of their other corners back, though. He was a full participant Friday, and Tyson Campbell, so he'll likely play. Defensive end, outside linebacker, Jordan Smith, not sure what his capacity is with the team, but he is listed as questionable. And then a special teams player, rotational player, and former Denver Bronco, and Laurenti McCray was listed as questionable with a hamstring. Do you guys remember Laurenti McCray when he was here? He was the highest paid undrafted free agent Denver ever had. They signed him with the largest bonus. I think it was like $17.5K for a signing. Yeah,
right.
Yeah, and then it was eventually trumped by Midi out, and then I think Alexander Johnson finally took the cake with like 40-something thousand as a UDFA.
I think Alexander Johnson's earned it though.
Oh, absolutely. Alexander Johnson's been listed as a top 10 linebacker by PFF for 2 seasons in a row, as well as preseason rankings. Well, take it, we use PFF, but take it as with a grain of salt.
With a grain of salt, yes.
Yes, because they use very wonky metrics to support their claims. But, so that's kind of the injury report. So overall, aside from, of course, the Jerry Jeudy injury, and the unfortunate Ronald Darby injury, which we are not going to be listed on this as they were put on IR earlier this week. Definitely going to be some injuries, but, as, a lot of reporters saying, the one thing Denver has for the first time in 5 years, aside from solid quarterback play, briefly solid quarterback play, is depth. Was an issue we've struggled with the last few years. So definitely nice to see that we have the depth to kind of go over those injuries. Now you could argue that there's not depth on the wide receiver side. We talked about it on Wednesday. So it'll be interesting to see who they bring up and who's going to be seeing the field. It was Kendall Hinton. So it'll be interesting to see how he's utilized on the field today. But defensively, passer 10, number 2, which I got the new, rocking the new uni.
Oh,
nice.
Yeah.
Let's see it. All right.
I'm going to say, do not jinx him, because the last guy you had his jersey, you know what happened.
Well, that was after I tossed it in the dryer intentionally and pressed, start like 5 or 6 times.
Yeah. Why didn't you get up back and light it on fire?
What he's hinting at. The last jersey I bought was Drew Lock, and we've seen how that crashed and burned. One day after the Broncos game, I hit the dryer. I threw it in the dryer.
Maybe you should have just taken it out back and burned it.
Oh,
I'm just kidding.
Technically, I shout out to Jerry Murr, our firefighter on staff. I didn't want to burn down my backyard or my deck, so
okay.
Dryer is a safer option.
All right.
One thing I just point out as far as injuries this year, the one thing I liked, this year comparatively to other years in the past, seemed like we came in relatively clean to the season. A lot of times we'd already picking up injuries and people were mending, and we had already started down a guy or two. So then we go into the first game and we go down a guy or two, and now we're in big trouble. It's bad to have Darby out. It's bad to have Jeudy out. But we've got that depth like we said, in part because of what we didn't see in preseason. Seemed like strength and conditioning maybe was just in a little bit better position this year than what we've seen in years past. So.
Absolutely, because last year we were in the Baltimore Ravens situation where we had like 14 players on IR before the second week of the season. So, thankfully we're not in those shoes this year. We did. I think the strength and conditioning coach Landau, he was working with players a lot in the offseason was what I read. So maybe that a lot of that offseason training helped because he has Landau performance recovery or whatever somewhere here in the metro area, and there's a lot of guys that work with him with that or with the Broncos and with other teams. So maybe that helped. Shout out to Landau. We got our first comment from that guy, Aaron. Jags are about to get clapped. I think we're all hopeful that the Broncos can go in there and get a W. We're going to hit our predictions, though, towards the end of the show.
So make sure Broncos you stick country. By for that.
Yeah, good morning, Broncos country. All right, we're kind of moving on into the next segment. We talked about injuries, PS2, where hopefully he's going to hop in and play well. We're going to dive into keys to the game. We're going to break it down. We did it as one segment last week, so we're going to break it down into two with offense, key to the game, defensive key to the game. We'll flip the order. So I'll start with offense with you, Dave. What's the offensive key to the game for the Broncos to bring a victory home?
Run the ball, pound the rock. Houston ran the ball for 160 yards against Jacksonville last week. 41 rushes, 160 yards. We need to do the same thing.
Okay. What about you, Keith?
Boy, me and Dave are on the same page here, man. I think this is one of those games that we don't need to try to get into a shootout in. We saw what happened with the Texans when they got in a shootout as well. You don't want to attempt points. There's no reason to. I think if we can get dominance on the front line and put up points and chew off time on the clock, it's our key to success today on the offense.
Absolutely. My key to the game is just going to be ball security. It appears that it's going to be raining out there. This is going to be a challenge for, possibly Teddy Bridgewater and throwing the ball downfield, as well as, we have running backs who in the past have had turnover issues in Melvin Gordon. So just ball security. If they can protect the ball, this offense should find a groove similar to how they found a groove last week against New York. All right, so let's switch to defense. I'll start with you, Keith.
Well, I look at a young quarterback and a receiving core that could try to pick apart our secondary. So I think our secondary with Darby down, Surtain stepping in for the first week, everyone needing to kind of step up his game maybe a little bit, in order to kind of cover in the middle for Surtain. Safeties cheating down. Everyone just go, like I said, communication will be key in the defense, and the secondary is really where it's going to be. I mean, we're talking about DJ Shark. We're talking about Marvin Jones Jr. and a name that's familiar to Broncos country, Laviska Shenault, that's going to be their wide receiving core, and I think our secondary will be tested.
Absolutely.
I agree 100%. This secondary, we're going to find out how good our secondary is. But I think the key here is we have to put pressure on Lawrence because if we allow him to sit back there, these receivers are fast. They're going to have time to run around and get open. So we definitely need to – Vic needs to be aggressive with his defense today. I think we need to see some blitzing. We need to throw some looks at Trevor Lawrence that are going to confuse him. He threw 3 interceptions last week. Let's force him into some errors again today and bring it home.
Absolutely. And mine was actually going to be pressure on the quarterback as well. One thing the Jacksonville Jaguars have done well since the beginning of preseason is allow hits on Trevor Lawrence. They are struggling offensive line. If Bradley Chubb is coming back, and depending on his capacity, as well as Von Miller, those tackles are going to be in for a very long day. So I expect pressure to be on him nonstop. But where I want to see the pressure come from is the interior defensive line. So Shelby Harris, Draymond Jones, Mike Purcell, Deshaun Williams, Shamar Stephen, whoever's in there, whatever rotation they're going with, we need to see that interior defensive line pressures. That's what we seen when we seen this defense be really successful last year. This is where the pressure was coming from, this interior. The edge rushers were doing a great job at setting up the outside, grabbing their containment. And these guys, Shelby Harris, Draymond Jones, were making the push to get in there and not only plug holes, but get to the quarterback, making errant throws. My other key to the game is forcing turnovers. This is one thing that Vic Fangio's defense has struggled with, is creating turnovers. They've been scarce since he's been here. It's been almost non-existent. I mean, last year, granted, we turned the ball over a heck of a lot, but our defense really wasn't taking the ball away a lot. This year, we're balanced at a 0 turnover differential because we turned the ball over once, Giants turned the ball over once. So this is essentially a clean slate, and you have the possibility, poor weather, inexperienced quarterback, and a poor offensive line. I need to see turnovers from this defense today.
And I'll agree with both of you guys, but the one thing that I want to disagree with Dave is just I don't want to see a lot of pressure. I want to see selective pressure. I want to be a smart coaching. I'm hoping with the offensive line versus our defensive line that we can win battles with 4 guys.
Right.
When you bring a 5th guy. I don't want to bring the house and leave ourselves exposed either.
Oh, no.
The secondary needs to perform today. I just don't want to leave them exposed too often. I shouldn't say
right. No, and I agree with what you're saying, and I don't mean Vic needs to, blitz on every play of the game, but
right.
Be selective about it, like you said, and especially when you get into those longer yardage situations, maybe bring an extra guy and just put a little extra pressure on Lawrence. So, but we need to take care of the middle of the field. We can't have a repeat of what happened last week in New York. We can't leave the middle open so Trevor Lawrence has an escape route up the middle.
Agreed.
Yeah.
What's up, Ricky?
Yeah, Ricky Newell. Yeah. How's it going, Ricky? You're absolutely right, Dave. I wanted to highlight that as well with this defense. If they leave that middle of the field wide open, while Danny Dimes is a mobile quarterback, we seen him use it against Washington this week. Trevor Lawrence is just as mobile, if not more of a mobile quarterback than Danny Dimes. He can create, yardage and get first downs and, hopefully not break anything too large. But if we're not taking care of that middle where that pressure is coming from, so I'm really hoping that Mike Purcell can step up and have a better game because we've seen him on his bottom a ton against, the Giants. Will Hernandez, not Shane Lamoud, the kid who just got hurt, Nick Gates, I think. Was knocking Purcell back, knocking him on his behind. We need to see him bounce back and really have some kind of a dominant force today. That's the guy I'm wanting to see a better game from. I'm stoked for this game. I think we're going to cream them. I think Vic knows just how to get in a young quarterback's mind. So Ricky's on to something here. There was a stat or a comment that was thrown around quite a bit this week leading up to the game, is that rookie quarterbacks actually have a terrible record against a Vic Fangio-led defense. Like, I think it was like 2 wins and a ton of losses. It was a really gigantic margin. So Ricky might be onto something here, but in our favor, this could go in our favor as we play another rookie quarterback next week. So we'll see if the luck continues.
And Vic just needs to really confuse this guy, disguise coverages, whatever you can to really throw Trevor off of his thing. The guy can put up yards. He did it against Houston, he passed for over 300 yards. He had 3 touchdowns. So we need to confuse the guy. And like Keith said, we can't leave the secondary out there on their own all the time. So it'll be interesting to see how Vic approaches this game defensively.
Absolutely. So I didn't have this on our agenda, but I kind of want to just touch on it. So before we hop into, our key players of the game offensively and defensively, unfortunately we did see the, unexpected loss of Jerry Jeudy this past Sunday against New York. He looks like it's going to be 4 to 6 weeks. I think closer to 6 weeks is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, they did 4 to 6, and then they said 6 to 8, and then they all kind of agreed it's going to be about 6 weeks.
So with him being out, looking at the stats from last week, he was the leading receiver in terms of targets as well as the receptions. Prior to him leaving the game, and actually just for the entire game, he continued to be the number 1 target with 6 receptions. Who's going to step into that role? Who do you guys think is going to be the best fit to really take over and be this dominant leading receiver? I'll start this one. I was hopeful it would be Courtland Sutton. I was hoping he would be the number 1 receiver because, he's been here the longest. We've seen tremendous growth from him. Unfortunately, that knee injury, it just seems like he may not be 100% for game time speed. I think he's healthy, but game time speed and practice speed are two different things.
Correct.
Highlighting the route where we seen him on the fly, and he was open. I mean, he was going to be open, Teddy put it, but he just didn't have the vertical speed to get there. And, we seen him kind of have an awkward kind of limp back to the sideline as he was running off the field. I really think, the other contract name, Tim Patrick, is going to be who steps up. That's my candidate. I mean, we've seen him be consistent in these issues when we've had receivers go down before. He's been that plug guy his whole career. I'm just hopeful this may be the opportunity he gets to really shine with a decent quarterback, one that's going to put the ball where it needs to be with him, and maybe he breaks out this year. Who do you guys think could step in this role?
Go ahead, Dave, if you want.
I'm going to say Tim Patrick. He proved it last year. I think he can do it. And like Matt said, I think Teddy throws a better ball than Drew. I think that helps the receivers with drops too. With the exception of KJ Hamler. So I just had to throw that out there. So but I think Tim Patrick is going to have to be the guy that steps up. I'm with Matt. I think Cortland is still – he might be a little hesitant on that knee, and ACLs are tricky, especially when you're a receiver and you rely on a lot of cutting and, things like that. So take it easy with Sutton for a while. Let's try to use Patrick and let's work Sutton back into – because I still think Sutton can be our number one. I still think Sutton is our number one once he's 100% healthy.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
For me, I was thinking about this just that, how our game is going to play out. I just see it more of a committee. I know that Tim Patrick's going to go in there and get a couple more catches. I expect Hamler to go in there and get a couple more catches. I expect Sutton to go in there and get a couple more catches. So I don't think that you're going to just see a guy just completely take over and have 6 for 62, which is where Judy ended up and leading our receiving core with 6 for 62, even though he went out in the game. I don't think you'll necessarily see that. So that's my take.
Yeah, and one thing that it could be that with going back to Cortland Sutton, it was highly said throughout different chains that Cortland Sutton was going to be used not to be the guy who stretches the field, but to be the guy who's getting the touchdowns in the red zone. So maybe he's going to have to shift out of that role. Maybe that's kind of what it was. The game plan was to use him maybe on a couple big routes, then try to utilize him in red zone packages more often. So it'll be interesting to see if he can step out and, should really show that he's healthy this week. So maybe we see him in a different role today. There was a good question that we got from Ricky up here. Do you all think that Pat Surtain is ready to start? I'll let you go first, Keith.
I think of anybody, he's ready to start. Now, do I want to necessarily see him in that role today on the field? It's not what we'd planned for. I think he would have been more ready, let's say week 6, if he had to be out there. I just, get that NFL time out there, use it in and out as far as some of the sub packages, get your feet wet a little bit is really what I was hoping for. Can he do it? Yes, I think he can do it. Do I want him necessarily out there doing it week 2? I would have liked to seen a little bit more development. That's the only thing I'd say.
All right. What about you, Dave?
I agree 100% with Keith. Out of all of our non-starting quarterbacks, I think he is the one that's most ready to step in today and take on that starting role for Darby. But today is probably the worst week for him to start with that receiving core that Jacksonville has. They got speed, and it's going to be interesting, especially if they get Surtain in situations where he's going to be on an island. I think he's so young, we're going to have to roll a safety over there and give him some help.
Well, yeah, that highlights what we saw last week when they were playing the man with the soft zone underneath, and part of it was Alexander Johnson not being where he needed to be. But We've seen him play loose on a guy like Sterling Shepard. I mean, Sterling Shepard, if we look at this receiving core to Sterling Shepard's a whole different receiver. He's the shifty slot guy. This team doesn't really have a shifty slot guy. They have gigantic shifty slot guys. I mean, Laviska, Marvin Jones Jr., DJ Chark, they're all over 6'2".
They're
big
physical guys.
Physical guys. And Marvin Jones Jr. isn't as fast as he once was.
No.
But Laviska's crazy fast. DJ Chark is crazy fast. And one thing when we were talking about our pre-draft stuff all the way back in, March and, leading up to the draft, when we were talking about these corners, the one thing that I kept mentioning is he's going to have to learn how to get vertical. One of his issues in college is when you get put on a fast guy, he would lose his coverage, lose his footing, and wouldn't be able to catch up. As soon as the receiver created a 2-yard distance, he wasn't able to catch up. So unless, Trevor Lawrence is an accurate quarterback, so there's going to be some potential danger there. If this was an Andy Dalton throwing the ball, that 2 yards may not make a difference. The ball's not going to be in stride all the time. This is a quarterback who's got the arm to put it in stride. So those 2 yards, we've seen those 2 yards bite him behind last week against New York. He cannot afford to let that receiver grab that 2 yards on him today.
Yeah. I think that's one of the things you saw in his college career, though, is he was able to kind of make up for that in his college career, right? He was still able to catch up on a lot of those guys, right? Knock the ball away.
The one route that bit him was the fly route. That's the one route that bit him, just the straight route. Because, those guys are fast. And, the one thing he's got going for him is they're bigger guys. They might be fast, but they're going to burn out faster. Instead of being a Henry Ruggs, who's going to just light you up, or a Tyreek Hill who's going to light you up 10 out of their 12 routes or go routes.
Yeah.
So I think he'll be okay.
I think that Surtain's going to have to get physical with these guys.
He's got to.
He's going to have to jam him at the line and not let them get that separation.
Yeah.
So that's the way he's going to have to play it, and we have to rely on our defensive line to get that pressure so these guys don't have time to run these long routes,
Exactly.
So we got to be in Trevor's face. Yeah.
See what the team looks like today.
Yeah, definitely. And so I guess, my other question would be, the other thing that I like about it before I go to my question with this is I like that they're going to keep him outside and leave him outside. They're not going to be moving him around. They're not going to be confusing him, putting him in situations to hurt himself. So with him lining up on the outside and staying outside, I think that was one of the smartest moves Vic Fangio could have done. But I wanted to ask you, so if Michael Ojemudia was healthy, would you rather give the nod to Ojemudia, who's had familiarity, been a starting corner in the NFL before, or would you just say, let's go with Patrick Surtain if Ojemudia was available?
I think I'd be a hypocrite if I said anything other than Ojemudia starting. And that's exactly what I'd end up doing this week. Like I said, I think I would have liked to seen him develop for a few more weeks before he got put in. Maybe he would have been used in more packages this week, but Surtain, I would like to have seen, again, week 6 would have been perfect for me to see him more introduced than week 2.
Okay.
Yeah, and I have to agree with Keith. I think Ojemudia would have, if he was healthy, I think he probably would have got the nod, because I think the coaching staff probably even realizes that, hey, this guy's still young. He has some learning to do. And this is not a knock on Surtain at all, and I don't want anybody to take it like that. He's a rookie, and it's different from even if he played at Alabama, it's definitely different going from the NCAA to the NFL, because everybody's fast and everybody's good at this level. And Surtain is going to be great. He just needs time to adjust.
Yeah, definitely agree. So got a comment here from our good friends from the K&K Sports Show. They also air Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays. So head over to their page, give them a listen. They talk all sports. They talk a bunch of great stuff, have some wits and wagers stuff. But he says, good morning, gentlemen and Coach Arians. Rumor has it Catton's calling for Teddy Two Gloves. Hey, if Teddy Bridgewater ends up a Hall of Famer, Kenny, we'll have to take you out to dinner or something.
I thought they were actually talking about his gloves at first, and then I thought maybe they should just ship him over to New York and give him to, their starting quarterback, so he can hold the ball. Oh, maybe not. Never mind.
Yeah.
Maybe not. Ouch. Throwing out the New York digs already.
Yeah, I don't think we'll ever see Teddy Two Gloves in the Hall of Fame. So,
hey,
but if we do,
only 28. Kurt Warner made it. Kurt Warner made it on a resurgent career.
That's true. If he makes it. there is one person I want to do his induction speech or to be his guy who presents him, and that is our own Victor.
Oh, that would be great. Get the pad ready. Get the pen and pad ready. Victor.
I don't know if Victor's still out there listening.
Victor's like the die-hard Drew Lock. He leads the Drew Lock fan club. You want T-shirts, any of that stuff, reach out to Victor. He'll take care of you. All right, we got another comment. We'll address some of these comments before we hop over. I think Miller will get another sack, if not two. Simmons, he was disappointed in himself last week. He didn't play bad, but expects more out of himself. I expect Simmons to pull an interception. If there's going to be a player who's primed to get an interception today, that's not a cornerback. It would be Justin Simmons, as he's our center fielder. So I agree with this. Last week we had an over/under on Von Miller when we did our pregame with K&K. As Kenny and some of his other guys are New York fans. Nobody said Von Miller was going to get 2 sacks but me. He got the 2 sacks. Kenny did again this week.
I said he wasn't going to get any, so I also predicted the Broncos to lose, so I was off last week.
Oh, boy.
Touche. Yeah, there was another couple comments I wanted to bring up. Adam Koppel, he does some stuff with us, and he does some stuff for the Rockies with Scott Cole. Shout out to when they're so bases loaded when they are able to get it up and running. I know a lot of us really aren't interested in talking Rockies as of lately, as the boycott is still live and well.
I'll tell you what, the Rockies have been playing some good baseball.
Yeah, they have.
Put up a few wins lately.
Yeah, too bad they couldn't have started this way.
Yeah.
I mean, they're dominant at home. They just can't win on the road consistently.
No, not consistently.
It's horrible. But, yeah. Definitely.
We digress.
Yeah. No need to talk about the Rockies today.
Yeah. That just brings up sad memories. Anyways, switching over to so we're gonna go to this is a new segment we're gonna do predictions. So predictions for the leading receiver, rusher, and sack. So this is your I want you to name the player and what you think their stat line is gonna be close to. So we'll do leading receiver first, and I'll start with you, Dave.
Leading receiver is going to be Tim Patrick. I'm going to say he's going to have 8 catches, 102 yards, 1 touchdown.
Okay. What about you, Keith?
Well, I sat there and listened to all you guys, and you were talking about, where we need to be in receiver. I think this is where a little bit of experience comes into play. I think the injury bug gets a little bit behind him. I have Tim Patrick for 7 for 110.
Okay.
Or I'm sorry, Tim Patrick, Cortland Sutton. What am I talking about?
Okay.
Cortland Sutton.
All right. So I think the leading receiver today is not going to be a wide receiver. I do believe it is going to be a tight end. I think it's going to be Noah Fant. I think he's going to have 6 catches for 87 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Well, I'll tell you what. I was preparing. I wasn't exactly sure where these predictions would go. I also have Noah Fant with 2 touchdowns today, so I agree with you there, Matt.
Okay. Hey, look, it's on the same wavelength.
Yeah.
All right. So predictions for the leading rusher. This is going to be a complicated one. As last week we seen Javonte Williams get the bulk of the carries, but Melvin Gordon make use of it with that humongous run towards the end of the game to seal the deal. So let's start with you, Keith. Who's the leading rusher today? Let's say who's the leading back with touches and who has more yards, because it may be different as it was last week.
I think we surprise, and I don't think Williams gets the field nearly as much this week. Okay. I think it's actually – I think Gordon gets out there and he gets started early. I think he goes 10 for 110.
Okay, 10 for 110. All right. What about you, Dave?
I'm going to go with Keith. I think against this porous Jacksonville running game, Melvin's going to start out strong, and they're just going to feed him and ride the guy that's, doing it. I'm going to say he has probably 18 carries. I'm going to say 123 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to put it Melvin Gordon as well as the leading back in terms of touches. I think he's going to get 15 touches. But I think Javonte Williams is going to be the one to have a breakout run this week. He's cranked up and he's ready to go. I think Gordon leads it in touches, but Javonte Williams gets about a 55-yard run that puts him ahead in yards. So how many touches? You guys both went Melvin Gordon touches. How many touches do you think Javonte Williams sees last week? I think last week it was 14 and 10, I think. With the split, do we think we see about 28 again? Do you guys think we see more running this week? What's your guys' thoughts?
I think we see shorter fields, and that's why I see fewer rushes all the way across the board. So probably a half a dozen touches for Williams, about 10 to 12 for Gordon, and that's about where we end up for the day, I think.
Okay, what about you, Dave?
I think with the weather, possibility of some thunderstorms and stuff, Denver's going to really concentrate on running the ball. I'm going to say as a team, we're probably going to be maybe between 30 and 35 carries. And if it's working, maybe even more. I mean, Houston ran the ball 41 times against Jacksonville last week.
Yeah.
So if the running game's working, then let's use it. Let's not let a wet ball be thrown around out there where, they can get tipped, lead to interceptions and things like that. So I'm thinking, if Gordon's going to get 18 catches, I'm going to say Javante's going to be maybe somewhere between 12 and 15.
Okay. So essentially flipping the script a little bit, because last week we seen about 28 rushes, 36 passes. I think Javonte Williams, I think Melvin gets 16. I think Javante's not far behind with 13. So I think they are going to pound the rock as much as they can today, take advantage of the weather. The one thing that I would say could end Melvin Gordon's night real quick is if he decides to put a ball on the ground.
Oh, yeah.
Vic Fangio's in a season where no mistakes are allowed. It felt like we seen Pat Surtain get removed from the game after that play that allowed the touchdown.
Right.
So,
and the thing with this, too, last year they really didn't have a guy to go to. Philip Lindsay just did not fit into that offensive system that Shermer was running.
That's true.
If Gordon drops the ball today, then see him, like you said, he'll be on the bench. He'll be in the doghouse, and Javonte Williams will get the bulk of the carries. So ball security is job security.
100% agree. So one thing this is going to go off segment a little bit because we're actually moving like at light speed today. Believe it or not, we're actually ahead of the schedule rather than running behind the schedule.
That's crazy. We'll just throw in more stuff, Matt. We can even look at other NFL games.
Yeah, we could definitely do that. So I'm going to improvise real quick because I have a question because we just talked about Vic Fangio and his personality right now. One thing he's always said, we're, death by inches, the Godfather, the Duke of all things badass in what he was praised to be. And we didn't see that. We've seen kind of a soft defense, kind of a soft mentality the last 2 seasons. Is this the first year where we see the leave no regrets dominating personality that Vic Fangio was supposed to be?
I think really I saw it all throughout preseason. I saw it in all the interviews that we saw this season. I think this is a completely different team that we've seen in the prior 2 years. I think finally Vic Fangio has his people in place, not only as players but as coaches, and I think he really has this team operating on a different team concept than he's had since he's been here. It's what we saw in Chicago. I mean, you saw that defense in Chicago, and it was one unit on the field. They functioned as one. There was not a mistake that was made rarely by that Chicago defense. How dominant were they for years? He comes here to Denver. He's taking over a brand new position. He doesn't have his players. He doesn't have his coaches necessarily. We're 3 years in. I think we're starting to finally see that, and I'm excited really for what we're going to see from Denver this year. I really think they have chances to shock some people this year. So
speaking of that really quick, shocking people, there was a stat that came out regarding playoffs and where each team was positioned. Denver was sitting at 4th place in terms of what the percentages of what they thought could be there at 57%, which was about 14% closer to the next team. Kansas City, of course, was number 1 with like 69% or 89% or some crazy thing. I don't remember what the statistics said exactly. But they had the Broncos ranked 4th in the AFC for making the playoffs, which I don't think any of us thought was a possibility.
No. One thing I would say, a little bit of research going into the season, this is the first time in like 4 years that we've had a favorable, winning percentage that were of opponents that we're playing, i.e. the strength of schedule. Typically, we've had anywhere from the 4th toughest down to about the 12th toughest schedule. This year, I think we're like 26th toughest schedule. So it's a much easier schedule, at least on paper, too.
Absolutely, 100%
Yeah.
agree with that.
It definitely is. I think one thing that's really a difference in the defense this year is depth. He didn't have depth, and if somebody went down, you didn't have the guys to come fill in. Now, George Payton has done a great job of filling holes that John Elway left all over this team. Elway went for the flashy names, the stars, and bring those guys in. But he forgot about the guys that you really need, the guys that are going to backfill when somebody gets hurt or just to give some guys some breaks. So I think that's one thing we're seeing, and I think Vic is more comfortable running Vic's style of defense now. And I do look for it to mimic, that Chicago Bear defense. And I think once this defense gets going, you're going to see this defense turn into a turnover machine.
I like that.
Absolutely. Got a comment before I do mine. New secondary, Von Beck has the pieces to run that smash mouth defense we've been expecting. 100% agree with that statement. I think the other thing that we're not none of us had mentioned, Vic Fangio is also, coaching for his job, he's not only his job, but his reputation of that dominated defense, that smash mouth style of play. So maybe maybe we finally seen the fire be lit underneath Vic Fangio, and he's going to come out and we're going to see a great defense. Schematic wise, we seen him use the soft zone a lot last week. Soft zone always makes me nervous. It leaves a lot of gaps in the field. So hopefully I think it was just him, utilizing soft zone to get, those players rested and switch out players, things like that. It's easier to switch out when you're in a soft zone. Player runs to the sideline closer to the edges. Right. So maybe it was just well placed. Maybe it was just good timing. I'm not sure, but it burned us on a touchdown that to the Sterling Shepard. So it'll be interesting to see how he utilizes that if that's his if that's what he wants to do. So Vic Fangio finally got his win in September. And I'm wondering, do we got some there's a new guy behind the scenes, Matt Sheldon, analytics guy. So we didn't see any time miscues. We didn't see any, unused timeouts last week. We seen some aggressive fourth conversions. So is Matt Sheldon maybe part of this recent success of maybe pushing the stats down? Like, hey Vic, that's a good 4th and 1. Hey Vic, don't call your timeout when you need to use it. We didn't have the Titans recap of last season.
I think a little bit. I think it helps him manage the game a little bit more. But I know the analytics guy wasn't up there saying, hey, Vic, it's 4th and 7. This is a perfect time to go for it.
Hey, that's true.
Vic is being aggressive. Desperate times call for desperate measures, and Vic knows he is fighting for his job. And I think Vic is going to pull out all stops, so that if that means if we're in the area where you're in between a punt, and a long field goal, he may just say, you know what?
Screw it.
We're going to go for it. I don't think Vic trusts Brandon McManus. I have no idea why. I don't know what.
Well, was he there? He was there during Chicago. Chicago still has not found a kicker, I believe.
Well, I understand that, but
there's some PTSD.
Maybe he just has some PTSD from bad kickers in Chicago or something.
There you go.
Geez, you got Brandon McManus, one of the best in the business. Trust the guy sometimes, but it's exciting for his fans to see him go for these 4th and 7s and things like that and pick up, 15 yards on 4th and 7. So, we're all happy and jumping up and down after it happens. But, boy, if he misses one of those, we're going to all be back on Vic saying, what are you doing, Vic?
Yeah, so, I thought it was interesting catching his interview about that, though, too. He very much talked to kind of like what I spoke to. He said he thought it was a necessary thing. Not a necessary thing. He thought it was a great thing because his team was playing well. It would help the mindset of the team. It would propel them forward. He felt confident in the team, and he thought it would help the team in having that backing of the coach to go for it on 4th down. And it 100% did that. Now, don't get me wrong. I think there is something for what you guys said. It is a contract year. And even if you're not playing for another head coaching gig, you at least want to put some good defensive tape out there.
Right.
Hopefully pick up that as well. I think he will be playing different than we've seen in the last 2 years with his defense. I think it would have been regardless of how deep his personnel was too.
Yeah. Well, one other thing on this topic before we move on that I think allows Vic to do this and take these risks with the offense. He trusts his defense a whole lot more than he did last year. So this is his defense. These are his guys that him and George Payton, pulled these guys together. And I think Vic trusts them. So he's not afraid to put them into situations where, okay, I'm going to turn the ball over on downs at, around midfield because he knows his defense can probably stop these people and get the ball back.
Yeah.
All right. So let's, I guess we can move on into the next segment. And this is going to, I'm still in this kind of a format. I wanted to do the quick hitter format that we got from K&K. So it's going to be some over and unders on Teddy Bridgewater. So just we could do yes or no. Okay. Or over or under, I mean. So Teddy Bridgewater touchdowns, over or under 3?
Under.
I have under.
I'm going to go under as well. I think the weather plays a big factor in that. All right. Teddy Bridgewater, over or under 227 yards?
I'm going to go under as well.
I got over.
I'm going to go over as well. I think we see them stretch the field with some good yards after catch. All right. Teddy Bridgewater, over or under 2 interceptions?
Under.
I'm going to go under as well.
Definitely under.
Okay. Teddy Bridgewater, over or under 2 fumbles?
Under.
Under.
All right. I'm going to go under as well. Do you think we see a turnover today?
Yes.
From Teddy Bridgewater?
No. Not from Teddy Bridgewater.
Okay. All right. I'm going to say no as well. Okay.
My stat line I have written down is 27 for 38 for 27 of 38 for 287, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, 28 yards rushing.
Wow.
Dang. Yeah. Hey, Keith has officially boarded the Teddy train and has he's
not looking back, man. He got a non-refundable one-way ticket.
I like the enthusiasm mentality. I think we could see a close stat line. I don't think we're going to, the part that I'll disagree with is that I don't think we're going to see the ball thrown 38 times today. I think because of the weather, it's going to be decreased. I do think it was leading to the next thing. Over or under 30 passing attempts was going to be the next question. And I'm going to go over. I'm going to say yes, 31.
Now what was the number again?
30. Over or under 30 passing attempts.
I'm going to say under because I really think we're going to pound the ball today and take advantage of their weak defense and try to keep Trevor Lawrence and those receivers on the sideline. So I'm going to say probably 26-27 pass attempts today.
Okay.
Unless we get behind.
Okay, that's true. That's a fair.
And then Drew Lock will come in. Oh, speaking of the Teddy train,
coming from Kitty.
Keith. Speaking of the Teddy train.
Yeah.
Today's over under for Victor. Over 3.
Do you have a seat on there for Victor?
Do I have a seat on the train?
Is there a seat on that train for Victor?
We might have to keep him in the caboose until he gets a little bit more on board, But yeah, you can get on.
So Victor thinks he'll have over 35 attempts, and then he follows up with, or he'll have 5 gloves on. So we'll see where he goes. Okay.
And I'm trying to find the hourly weather for Jacksonville right now and see what it looks like.
While you're doing that.
Yeah, starting at 1:00 when the game starts. Thunderstorms, intermittent clouds. So it looks like the thunderstorms will be at the beginning of the game, and then after that, it's just going to be clouds. So who knows? We may
go ahead.
We may see him open it up a little bit.
Yeah, Doppler radar just looks like it's kind of hanging around that area for the day. So it could be one of those days where you don't see hardly anything, or you see it all day long. It'll be really interesting to see what that looks like. Could just be mist.
Right.
It's about as unpredictable as Colorado right now because our weather, it's 90 degrees in September still.
I think the one thing that we're really going to have to watch our players on, though, is the humidity.
Yeah.
the humidity, and these guys that play here in Colorado aren't used to this humidity, so we need to just make sure that we're mindful of that.
Yeah, that heat humidity, pairing can really mess up a guy. You know what I mean? It's completely different when you're playing in that humidity and still have a little bit of heat.
Yeah, it's supposed to be 83% humidity out there today.
It's miserable.
So,
Yeah.
All right. So I did have one over under for Trevor Lawrence, and I'm gonna say the question is he over or under 3 interceptions, which is what he had last week?
I think he's under, but not much.
yeah, I see 2 interceptions from him today.
I think he just matches it out. I think we see 3. I think we see 3 turnovers.
I'll be happy about that. So
that's my goal, at least 3 turnovers.
2 interceptions and a strip sack by Von Miller.
There you go. I'll take it.
That'll be the 3 turnovers there.
Under, he has to cut it, or he has to cut his hair.
Maybe they'll be calling us for Drew Lock.
Yeah, that's what she's thinking. I mean, I'm desperate to pot him off, but I don't think anyone's that desperate.
Speaking to that, we had gotten talking, I believe, on another episode about Washington.
Yeah.
They don't need him.
I don't think Washington's making any calls this morning.
Not after that performance Thursday night.
Yeah, he came out. He played well against a good defense.
Do you guys remember when Thursday night games were sort of the blah game? Nobody wanted to watch.
Yeah,
we've had 2 great Thursday night games so far this year. So knock on wood, they keep them up. I think Thursday night is becoming more the premier game over Monday Night Football.
Yeah, I mean, our Monday night game this week is Detroit and Green Bay. So
yeah.
Called it Michelob Ultra for the win.
Michelob Ultra for the win. Instead of Heineken, it's Michelob Ultra.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. All right. Well, we have our last segment, of course, is our game prediction, but I think we'll save the Broncos for last. I'm going to bring up the schedule, and we could just do a quick.
Okay.
We don't have to do scores, but we can do just who's the winner. If you want to do scores, feel free to. All right. Let's see. Okay, so we got Raiders, Steelers.
I'm going to go Steelers.
I hate to say it, but I'm going to go Raiders.
I'm going to go Steelers as well. 49ers, Eagles.
I'm going to go Eagles since I'm on the Eagle train. The Jalen Hurts train. So
that's in Philadelphia.
Yes, it's in Philadelphia.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to go San Francisco.
I'm going San Francisco as well. I don't trust Philadelphia at all. All right. So we got a couple Raiders. Oh, Victor's going against the grain, going Eagles. We got Steelers. All right. Texans, Browns. I'm going with the Browns.
Browns.
Okay. Saints, Panthers.
Saints.
I'm going with the shocker here. I'm going with Carolina. I think that Sam Darnold's going to shock a lot of people.
I've been all aboard the Sam train. I've been standing in this corner since he got traded. I think we see the upset here with the Panthers.
Wow.
All right. Colts, Rams in Indianapolis.
Doesn't matter. I'm going Rams.
Yeah, I'm going Rams. I think the Colts are a bad football team.
Yeah, I mean, they're depleted with injuries. I mean,
they are.
They can't keep a receiver healthy. Both their starting guys were listed on the injury report yesterday. Totally going with the Rams. Bills, Dolphins in Miami.
Miami's the favorite in this game, too. Is this a slap in the face to Buffalo?
It might be. I mean, you lost to Pittsburgh.
Do you think Tua's gonna beat Buffalo? I mean, I'm gonna go Buffalo. Okay. I don't see Buffalo losing 2 in a row.
I'm going Buffalo as well.
And I'll be the odd man out then. I'm going to pick Miami, and I think it's just a weird slide in the beginning of the season for Buffalo.
Okay. All right. Next is the Patriots and Jets in East Rutherford.
I'm going to say Zach Wilson gets his first career win.
Ooh. Over Mac Jones.
Yeah.
Okay. What about you, Keith?
I'm gonna have to go with the Patriots. Not necessarily over Mac Jones, but I don't think they can overcome a Patriots defense in New York today.
I hope they both lose. Great pick, Keith. I'm gonna go with the Patriots as well. I like Mac Jones as a quarterback. I was high on him out of the draft, and he played decent last week. So I think, and Bill Belichick, has got the experience.
Yep.
All right, Bengals, Bears. I think we all know where this one's going, Dave.
I'm gonna ride Joey Burrow until he proves me wrong. I'm going Cincinnati.
Yeah,
Cincinnati as well. All right, that leads us to probably the biggest blowout potential in Atlanta Falcons, Tampa Bay Buccaneers in Tampa.
Oh boy.
Yeah, that's an easy Tampa win.
Does anybody want to take Atlanta?
No.
No? Okay. I'll go Tampa.
Maybe I go put $1 on one of the sports books and see if I can get some money.
Right.
All right. This one's I think this is a pretty good game here. Vikings, Cardinals in Arizona.
I don't have any faith in the Vikings this year. I'm going Cardinals all the way.
Yeah, I'm going Cardinals. I don't know what's wrong with this Vikings team. Besides, they got a highly overrated quarterback.
I think Dalvin Cook takes control of the game early. I think they're not going to put Kirk Cousins in a position to get hit. I think they're going to pound the rock, and I think they win in a very boring game. And I'm going Minnesota.
Wow.
I don't trust the Cardinals. The Cardinals, yeah. I don't know if it's I don't trust the Cardinals or I don't trust Kingsbury. I don't know.
All right.
Can't go against Bruce when he's on the panel. All right, that takes us Titans Seahawks in Seattle. I'm sure this one's going to be a clean sweep, but we'll see.
Probably barely because I see this being a tight game, but I do see it Seahawks winning. So
I'm Seattle as well.
If Tennessee can run the ball, Tennessee will win this game, but I'm going Seattle.
Yep.
Okay, clean sweep. Now another really, really close game here. Cowboys, Chargers at SoFi, out in Cali. Who do you guys got?
I got Chargers. I'm sorry.
I'm gonna go Dallas.
I'm gonna go Chargers.
I just don't want the Chargers to win.
I don't want them to win either, but
so
I think
I'm picking with my heart and not my brain right here.
Hey, take it. I'll take it.
So,
all right. Chiefs Ravens tonight in Baltimore.
Okay, so go ahead, Keith. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, when I looked at, and I think I might have said this to somebody, might not have been here. I expected the FC West to be 2-0 as a whole this week. So I've got to go with the Chiefs. I got to go with the Raiders. I got to go with the Chargers. And of course, later I'll go with my Broncos too.
Yeah. I'll sweep the board. I think the Chiefs do it, and I don't think it's going to be as close as the Raiders game. I think Chiefs win by double digits.
Yeah, there's something wrong with that.
I mean, aside from the 15
that Ravens team, they can't put together a solid running game, and I think that really hurts Lamar Jackson. So even though he put in all of this work in the offseason about becoming more of a pocket quarterback, and he says he prefers being in the pocket, it didn't look that way last week. And I don't see it getting any easier against his Chiefs defense today. So I'll go KC.
All right, Kenny's going Ravens. So we'll see if we're pulling for your pick and hoping we are wrong. Kenny.
Yes.
We will take it.
Absolutely.
All right. And this with the performance last week from Green Bay, I don't know how you guys feel about this, but it is going to be Packers Lions tomorrow night at Lambeau. Can the Lions pull off the upset? I'm gonna say no. I think Green Bay smashes.
Aaron Rodgers is gonna come out, and there's a lot of people talking. Oh, is Aaron done and all these things? Yeah, it was sort of like that year where Tom Brady went into Kansas City and just had a horrible game, and everybody started saying Tom Brady's done. And I see Aaron Rodgers coming out and having that same type of performance today. This Detroit team is horrible. Their defense is horrible. They can put up some points with the offense, but their defense is bad. I see Green Bay beating them pretty handily.
I agree. I just hope it doesn't happen because I got to face Aaron Rodgers in my fantasy matchup. So, Aaron, have a terrible game, please. For me.
See, this is why I do not like fantasy sports, even though I played it this year. Fantasy sports puts you in a position where you're cheering for teams, for guys that are playing your own team.
Yeah.
See,
My first year of fantasy sports was my first year as a fantasy sports was really in my head. When you have and I can't remember who it was, but you have someone like Travis Kelce available and you need a tight end, you know what I mean? It's like, okay, I'm picking up Kelce, and rooting for him. It made it was a mind twist for me.
It definitely is.
Predictions. This is my shocker of the week. I think that there's so much bad stuff going on in Green Bay. I don't know if Aaron Rodgers can pull his team together well enough to put a good enough practice together this week by himself and go out and perform on the field as well this week. I think that the Lions upset the Packers in Green Bay.
Wow. If that's the case, I think teams are calling Green Bay right now for a trade on Aaron Rodgers.
I think so, too. And if Aaron has another performance like he did against the Saints, look for Jordan Love to maybe start sliding in more.
I agree.
Yeah, I mean, we seen it when the great had to be benched here in Denver for Brock Osweiler.
And Gilbert Cox has arrived, and Gilbert Cox is calling for Steven Montez.
Steven Montez, there you
go. He will not give up the Steven Montez train.
The Steven Montez smear campaign has started. It continued. I think that's we missed you, so we're starting over week 1.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Well, now that I talked some trash earlier, I said, we're ahead of schedule. We've officially fallen behind schedule, like typical fashion.
That's all right.
So let's dive in to our final segment of the day. Predictions for today's game against Jacksonville. Who's beating down the door to go first? Who wants to go first?
I can hit it.
All right. Take it away.
All right. I have a sort of I have a 2-part prediction. Final score is going to be Broncos 31, Jacksonville 17, or Jacksonville 10. It's all going to depend on our special teams play.
Okay. All right, Dave. What's your go?
I'm going Broncos 28, Jacksonville 13. I think Denver's going to run the ball, and we're going to keep Trevor Lawrence on the sideline. So they'll get a late garbage time touchdown, sort of like New York did. So, but I think Denver's going to control this game throughout.
Okay, solid. I'm sticking to my guns. Last week I said Denver 31. What did I say? 31-13. I think today we see 31-14 Denver.
Wow. We're all way up there on the scores. 28, 31, 31. We're all expecting to put some points up.
Hey, we did it last week. Let's hope we do it again.
Yeah. Well, Houston, who definitely does not have an offense like Denver's, hung a lot of points on Jacksonville last week. Jacksonville's defense is struggling.
Yeah. And the one thing with Trey Herndon being out, that's another reason I really think that we have the opportunity for Sutton to kind of go off. I expect him to have, don't get me wrong, 110 yards, but probably 1 or 2 big plays that are really going to bring in the yardage for him, and probably a touchdown out of one of those, because I'm calling for him to have a TD this Sunday as well. So I think it's just going to be some of those back-breaking type of things. I think it's going to be them not being able to produce and giving us short fields. After that, I think it's a lot of sprinkle passes. It's a lot of, running game just to manage short fields. And if we get up far enough, if a 31-10 is looking like a 31-10 at the end of the game, we could see some substitutions in for some people as well. And maybe that changes our stat lines a little bit for our guys. So,
right. Maybe does Drew Lock get in there, get some garbage time.
Hey, he's got to get some film out there.
Yeah. So,
you start seeing, our backup wide receivers that, Hinton and stuff like that, maybe getting some time on the field, and taking some stat lines away from some of the other guys we expect to have the big numbers.
Right.
Yeah, so, I think we see a similar game plan to last week offensively. Really kind of grind them down the first half. I mean, we didn't put up a ton of points in the first half. It was just controlling the clock, controlling field position, really just grinding out their defense. And then they were exhausted by the second half, and Denver took advantage. I think we see a
Well,
similar plan. But
I think one area to watch today, guys, is that interior offensive line of the Broncos, especially if Glasgow's not in there. You're going to have a very young interior. So let's see how they perform today, and hopefully they don't struggle and they're able to establish a good running game.
One of the things I had for stat lines too was sacks, and I think that's going to be kind of sprinkled across the board. I had one for Vaughn, I had one for Draymond, I had one for Shelby Harris for 3 sacks on the day. I don't think it's going to be. I'm hoping, like you're saying, Dave. I think we need to have that pressure up the middle, not only to support the run. I mean, they do have somewhat of a running game if they can get it going as well. So we need to be stiff on the run. And we need to be able to also get up the field on pass right through the middle.
Absolutely. So so that just highlighting what you said real quick. So all throughout the preseason, Trevor Lawrence was under a ton of pressure, a ton of sacks. They tightened up last week. He only had 1 confirmed sack, but the quarterback hits and pressures were through the roof against who the heck they play against Houston. We have a significantly better front 7 than Houston. Yep. So I think, those quarterback hits and pressures are going to go up. I mean, and, everyone wants to highlight sacks, but the biggest benefit of, having dominant edge pressure is just the pressure.
Right.
Pressure leads to mistakes. That's
pressure can disrupt.
Related stat there is, but it is the most important stat there is from that front 7.
Yeah, yep. Pressure will disrupt the passing game. So makes them hurry, makes them make mistakes. So we need to see that. One question, I got an over-under question for you guys.
All right.
Let's set it at 8.
Okay.
And that's 8 weeks. Urban Meyers leaves. Over-under, or does he not leave?
I think he should leave, but I think he stays. I think pending.
If USC comes calling,
I think he stays, but I think there is I would say a good chance he ends up at USC, but not until he's fired. The first week of the playoffs after the Jaguars only win 2 games all season. So I think that's when we see it happen.
What are your thoughts, Keith?
We kind of talked a little bit about predictions on Urban Meyer before. I'm going to stick where I'm at. I think he's about a season and a half coach.
Do you? And
yeah. I just think I think they're they don't want to have to go through and fire a coach that they brought in and touted so highly already 8 games in. I think they give him the season and they're hoping for something next season, and it just doesn't pan out. They have to move on.
And I know Urban Meyers. I've seen Urban Meyers' track record throughout his career. I think Urban Meyers will step down after this season. The NFL game is different. It's too big for him, I think.
Yeah,
that's fair.
I would agree. I think if we're looking at timelines, I think Keith is pretty spot on with his timeline. I think 1.5 years. I think if they're under 500 by midseason next year, I think there's a good chance he could be gone. But I mean, there's the only other contributing factor I would say is that there's already rumors in how he's handling the locker room. He's talking down to players like there's recruits, and he's not understood the relationship. These are full-grown men. These are athletes that are paid, and these are not your college recruits where you've done all of this recruiting. They've come here and they're paid. They're our responsibility kind of over you. Draymond Jones highlighted this in an interview, and he's like, I completely can see that there's getting turmoil there. There's a disconnect. I mean, he didn't want to follow up on comments, but he was under Urban Meyer at Ohio State. Yeah. So he knows what kind of, coach in person Urban Meyer is. So I don't think it's going to be a good fit, but we'll see.
It's amazing how many of those, top tier college coaches just have a hard time transitioning to the NFL, and that mindset different between the players and dealing with kids versus dealing with adults. And especially with, it's like kids that didn't have one penny to their name
and now they have millions of
Yeah,
dollars.
they make more money than you do.
Yeah.
exactly.
So-
That's a tough transition.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes these college coaches come up and then they need to get humbled by the NFL, go back to the college ranks for a while. I mean, look like Pete Carroll. He came up, he went back to USC, got humbled, came back up. I mean, he may have got out before USC got sanctioned.
But
Who knows what happened there.
I definitely would not be surprised that if Urban Meyer's people are already in conversation with USC and says, you know what, after the season, I'll step down, I'll accept the job, and USC will open the purse strings, to pay Urban and try to reestablish that program.
All I know is if that's the case, Jacksonville, I feel for you. You guys have had terrible instability at that position. So,
yep.
I mean, and who knows? I mean, Jacksonville may be willing to let him go if you can't utilize what has been deemed the top quarterback prospect since Andrew Luck, or possibly something that he's a better prospect than Andrew Luck was. Then you're doing something wrong.
Well, and if there's locker room problems between the coach and the players, management's not going to stand for that.
Exactly.
You can't replace 53 players.
It's a
you
lot
can
easier to
replace
replace
a
a
quote.
coach than it is your top 53. That's
right.
a good statement there. But
all right, gentlemen, good show this morning.
Yeah,
fun.
I just want to let everyone know, if you're in the Denver area after the game, the Denver Barbecue Festival is open till 6:00 tonight. Head down there, get some good barbecue. Come check out Willow Seasonings over at the Holy Smokes Barbecue Tent. We'll be over there. So I don't know if I'll be on the post-game show today, Matt, unfortunately.
Yeah, I was getting ready to leave that. I'll have to see. I don't know, because I don't know if you're going to be available either, Keith. I might have to one-man show it or take a rain check. We'll have to see.
Yeah, just hit me up. I'll see what I can get done for you. Okay, man?
All right, sounds good, guys. Well, it's been good. It's been fun. Yeah. And all we can end it with is let's see these Broncos get a win and go Broncos.
All right, let's go 2-0.
2-0.
All right.
All right.
See you guys.
We'll see you later.
All right. Great game, guys.
Take care, everybody.